Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, if you love real stories that restore your faith in humanity, make sure you stick around until the end. Today's story is one of those rare moments where courage, instinct, and unexpected heroes collide in a way that leaves everyone speechless. Let's get started. It started on a bright Saturday afternoon in a quiet suburban town where nothing dramatic ever seemed to happen. Kids played in front yards, sprinklers sprayed across manicured lawns, and the smell of barbecue drifted gently through the air. It was the kind of place where people assumed they were always safe. But danger has a way of hiding in plain sight. Sometimes, it shows up wearing a friendly smile. And sometimes, the only person who has the courage to signal for help is the one no one expects, a little boy. His name was Ethan, just 8 years old, shy, small, with sandy brown hair and big eyes that always seemed to be searching for something. He lived with his mother, Claire, who worked long hours at a local grocery store. She did her best, but there were always bills, always responsibilities, always late nights. Recently, Ethan had begun spending time at a neighbor's house, a man named Rick who offered to help out, since he was home most days. At first, Claire had been grateful. Rick seemed polite, friendly, always smiling. She had no reason to suspect that something might be wrong. But Ethan knew. The story doesn't start with a scream or a shocking moment. It begins on a highway. A line of rumbling engines, chrome shining in the sun, leather vests patched with the unmistakable logo of the Hells Angels. The group was on a charity ride, heading toward a fundraiser for children's hospitals. Contrary to the stereotypes people often whispered about them, these bikers weren't out looking for trouble. They were raising money to help kids just like Ethan. The pack rode together like a single organism, engines thundering beneath them, the wind whipping past. On the front left side rode Diesel, a broad-shouldered, tattooed biker with a thick beard and a heart far softer than he liked anyone to believe. He led the ride with the calm confidence of a man who'd seen enough of life to know that kindness didn't make you weak. As the bikers approached a red light near the edge of town, they slowed to a stop. And that's when Diesel noticed something odd. A small blue SUV pulled up next to the lead bike. Inside were two people. A man in the driver's seat, Rick, and a little boy in the back, strapped into his seat. The man smiled widely at the bikers, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel like he was in a good mood. But the boy was staring directly at Diesel. Not with fear, not with excitement, but with a desperate plea that made Diesel's stomach twist. The boy lifted his hand slightly. And then he did something that made every biker who later heard the story go silent. He formed his hand into a shape, palm flat, thumb tucked in, fingers curling over. It was the silent signal for help that had gone viral online. A signal used by children and adults to wordlessly communicate that they were in danger. Diesel blinked. For a moment, he wasn't sure he'd seen it right. Maybe the boy was just adjusting his seatbelt. Maybe he was waving. But then Ethan did it again. This time, slower, more deliberate. His eyes didn't leave Diesel's. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The light turned green. Rick gave a friendly wave to the bikers, completely oblivious to the silent exchange, and began to drive forward. Diesel reacted instantly. He revved his engine once, loudly, a sharp, attention-grabbing roar that signaled to the rest of the bikers that something was off. They exchanged looks. The group didn't break formation easily, unless there was a reason. And Diesel's expression told them everything they needed to know. They followed the SUV. Not aggressively, not recklessly, just close enough to keep it in sight. Ethan saw them in the rearview mirror, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. He didn't know if the bikers had understood. He didn't know if help was really on the way. But he clung to the possibility like a lifeline. Meanwhile, inside the SUV, Rick kept talking, rambling, smiling, acting like everything was normal. But his grip on the steering wheel was tight. His eyes twitched toward the mirror every now and then. Maybe the presence of loud, imposing bikers behind him made him nervous. Maybe he sensed something, or maybe he was simply paranoid by nature. Diesel reached for his Bluetooth headset and quietly called 911, explaining what he saw. The dispatcher took it seriously. The hand signal had been widely publicized for exactly situations like this. But the bikers weren't going to just wait passively for police. They stayed behind the SUV, keeping it boxed in by adjusting their formation on the fly, a move that required coordination and absolute trust. These weren't men who panicked. They had been in rough situations before, and they handled this one with calm precision. Rick noticed. His friendly demeanor cracked. His foot pressed harder on the gas. The SUV started speeding up. Diesel growled under his breath. This man was running. That told him everything he needed to know. The bikers spread out slightly, giving themselves room. The engines roared as they stayed close to the SUV, refusing to back off. The tension in the air was thick, electric. Other cars began pulling aside, unsure what was happening but sensing something serious was unfolding. Suddenly, Rick made a sharp turn onto a side road, too sharp. The SUV swerved, tires squealing. Diesel cursed and leaned into the handlebars as he followed. The side road was narrow, lined with trees. Not ideal for a chase. But they kept on him. Then, about half a mile down the road, Rick made a mistake. He turned into an empty parking lot behind an abandoned gas station. He probably thought he could lose the bikers in the confusion. Instead, he gave them exactly what they needed: space to surround him. The Hells Angels formed a semicircle around the SUV like a steel wall of engines and leather. Rick slammed on the brakes, panicking. "Don't you get out!" he barked at Ethan, his voice cracking with sudden hostility. Ethan froze. His little heart pounded like a drum inside his chest. Rick stepped out of the vehicle, slamming the door behind him. His hands shook as he pointed at the bikers. "What do you think you're doing?" he shouted. "Stay away from us. You people are insane." Diesel removed his helmet slowly, revealing eyes that burned with protective intensity. "Kid signaled for help," he said calmly. "You wanna explain that?" Rick's face twisted. He's confused. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's tired, that's all. But then he made the mistake that shattered the last shred of doubt. He reached for Ethan's door, too fast. Too aggressively. Before he could even touch it, two bikers stepped forward simultaneously, blocking him. Their expressions turned cold. "You don't get near that kid," one growled. Rick's face went pale. He backed away with trembling hands. Moments later, police sirens wailed in the distance. Officers arrived quickly, thanks to Diesel's call. Ethan stayed inside the SUV until an officer gently motioned for him. He stepped out cautiously, eyes darting between the bikers and the police. When an officer knelt down and asked if he was okay, Ethan broke down in tears. Between sobs, he explained everything. The hand signal had been his only chance. He had seen it online once and memorized it, hoping he'd never need it. But when he realized Rick wasn't the friendly neighbor he pretended to be, when things started happening that made Ethan feel unsafe, trapped, scared, he knew he had to try something. And when the pack of bikers pulled up beside them, he took the chance. He prayed they would understand. They did. Rick was immediately detained. Further investigation revealed enough evidence to ensure he wouldn't be returning to the neighborhood, or harming anyone, ever again. But the moment that stunned everyone wasn't Rick's arrest. It was what happened after. Ethan walked slowly toward Diesel, wiping tears from his cheeks. He looked up at the tattooed biker towering over him with an expression of timid gratitude. You saw me," Ethan whispered. "You helped me." Diesel kneels down, his massive frame folding gently to meet the boy eye to eye. "You asked for help," he said softly. "So we came." Ethan threw his arms around Diesel. The big biker froze for a second, surprised. Then he placed a gentle hand on the boy's back. Other bikers glanced away, pretending not to wipe their eyes. The police officers were moved. The bystanders who later heard the story couldn't stop talking about it. And when news spread about what the Hells Angels had done, the internet buzzed with shock. People had their own ideas, stereotypes, about what bikers were like. But this shattered every expectation. These men didn't hesitate. They didn't question. They didn't pass judgment. They saw a child calling for help, and they stepped in without fear, without hesitation, without worrying about how it would look. In the days that followed, Claire rushed to the police station when she learned what had happened. She held Ethan so tightly he could barely breathe. She cried thanking the officers. But when she met Diesel and the bikers, she couldn't find the words. Diesel simply nodded. "He's safe now," he told her. "That's what matters." Claire hugged him too, unexpectedly. Diesel blinked, stunned for the second time that week. The bikers didn't ask for recognition. They didn't brag. They didn't even stay long. They simply rode off, engines echoing through the streets, leaving behind nothing but gratitude and disbelief. But the memory stuck. To Ethan, to his mother, to the entire town. Sometimes heroes don't wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather jackets, ride loud motorcycles, and stop everything when a child silently asks for help. And that's why this story matters. Because it reminds us that help can come from the most unexpected places. That you should never judge a book by its cover. And that courage isn't about size, or age, or reputation. Courage is an 8-year-old boy using a silent signal to save himself. And courage is a group of bikers who saw it, and refused to look away. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, make sure to like the video and stay tuned for more real-life stories that show the power of humanity and the courage hidden everywhere around us. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, sometimes the loudest heroes are the ones riding right beside you.